Well, that's where we head next, because here tonight, Pete Thamel of ESPN, Pete does a great job for the worldwide leader, has reported that Syracuse's Jim Boeheim, quote, probably returning for the 2023-24 season. Boeheim at age 78, 47th year at Syracuse, obviously one of the game's all-time greats, says in this report that he acknowledges that he's heard chatter about his retirement for well over a decade, all very true. He told ESPN tonight, I have no other plans. Listen, this has been the question of the day for 15 years. This isn't a new question. It's just the calendar going, well, he's 78. It's just the calendar. If it wasn't the calendar, if I was 65, no one would be saying anything. Okay, Jim. Also in the piece, he says, and I quote, this is an awful place we're in college basketball. Now, mind you, he's coming back. He goes on to say, Pittsburgh bought a team. Okay, fine. My big donor talks about it, but he doesn't give anyone any money. Nothing. Not one guy. Our guys make like $20,000. Wake Forest bought a team. Miami bought a team. It's like, really? This is where we are? That's really where we are? And it's only going to get worse. LaVall Jordan, the coach's perspective. Your reaction, some of those comments made from Jim Boeheim.
One, when I'm 78, as you say, coach was 78. God bless him. I don't know, John, if I'm coming back if I'm 78. But that tells you he loves it. So, I can't, I guess NIL there is now, but I don't want to sit here and act like nobody's been bought before in the world of college athletics.
Hey, I'll say it. Did Carmelo Anthony go to Syracuse for
I'm not there. I mean, I'm not pointing and accusing anybody specifically, but just in general, things have happened that haven't been on the up. But coach wants it's the other thing is it's talking to coaches across, constantly. It's a factor. Like, I don't know if coaches anticipated how much of a factor it would be, but it's a huge factor, especially in the transfer market, I think.
I mean, I do think some of this is going to regulate too, right? At some point, either the NCAA or Congress or someone's going to find a way to kind of get control of it. They already had that change that came out last week where now they're going to be able to, when you go after cases where a collective and NIL stuff is involved, you are now going to be presumed guilty instead of presumed innocent, which kind of rankled some feathers with the way that they're phrasing it. But it's the NCAA is made up of the schools, and the school administrators decided that, hey, look, we can't trust anybody to police ourselves, so we're going to put these rules in place to try to find a way to clean this stuff up. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's something where they're trying to get to. I do think that it is interesting. One, that he says Wake Forest bought a team because, Wake Forest does not have like the NIL collective kind of a setup that a lot of other programs do. It's something that has frustrated them there. I also think I don't know why you're going to go to ESPN.com and publicly bash like your biggest donor, the guy that was just on national television for getting like Jalen Hurts to a game. Maybe that's what it is. He's frustrated that he's getting Jalen Hurts to show up courtside instead of making sure that his players actually get a little bit of money, that they get some NIL stuff. I don't know. I think it's crazy that he would come out here and say this, but he's like is there anybody else right now, LaVall, that can get away with saying something like that? I mean,
no,
Coach K could have.
Tom Izzo.
Tom Izzo probably.
Coach, those the guys that have been doing it long enough to be able to say that. And he's just, I don't think coach has ever held back as long as I've been, watching him and paying attention. So there's that.
Look, he's 78. All right. And I know what he said about how it's the biggest question every year. Well, tonight, he basically confirmed it. At this point, he's going to have to either be removed as the head coach or he's going to pass away in the chair. Now, he's earned that right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's earned that right. He's the face of Syracuse basketball. He's synonymous with it. We could talk about whether or not he stayed in it too long, whatever. Here's the thing, Jim. You've never held back. All right. You've never held back. We got you. But by the same token, if you're going to say that the state of the sport is awful, and yet you're coming back to collect a paycheck every 2 weeks, I'm sorry, I really can't have any feelings towards you. Because at the end of the day, you're Syracuse, and the schools that you're describing, like Wake Forest and Pittsburgh, you're Syracuse. You should be better than those schools in that department. It's all free game. So, and I would also just say, and I don't really care on this one, I find the latest conduct around some of the student media who are trying to get better at their craft to be unacceptable. And I think Jim Boeheim is one of the all-time great coaches in college basketball history. I want to make that very, 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 very clear. I think Jim is an all-timer, Hall of Famer, you name it. You can both say he's one of the all-time greats. And somebody's got to get him right with how you talk to an 18 to 21-year-old kid.
Yeah, the way he treats the student media is just not fair. Like, these kids are
Not right.
trying to figure it out. And, like, if you're going to go out, look, the one that stood out to me, Benny Williams, guy that started like 20 games for you, isn't in uniform, isn't at a game, isn't on the bench. You say you're going to address it after the game. You go to your post-game press conference, a game that you lost. You don't say anything in the opening statement. And then one of the questions that comes out is about the guy that's not there. Right? How are you surprised that that's what's coming up? Just, it's baffling to me. You know, you don't need to. It's very easy to not be an asshole. Right?
Well, yeah, and look, he's like Coach said, Jim Boeheim has never not been afraid to. He's never been afraid to share his feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. It's refreshing, honestly. I enjoy listening to his thoughts on things, and sometimes he keeps it real, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But you know what? So you're gonna disparage the other members in your own league and say that they've done it the wrong way? I don't know. I'm not a fan of putting other programs down. That, to me, tells me that you probably didn't do well enough yourself. Again, you're Syracuse. You're talking about Wake Forest and Pitt.
How much of it, though, is that it's like when Nick Saban said something about A&M, it was more he was talking to his people,
Donors.
supporters.
Yes. Yeah, that's what Rob's point. Rob brings up a great point. I mean, with the donor thing. All right.